to you from me. Anyways, how's everybody doing today? This is John Sanchez here. We're actually just having a quick sit down with Jennifer Rexford. I'm actually going to let her introduce herself a little bit. And what we're going to be going over is just some information about the USDA letters and whatever we can get into. So let's see what we can do. Go ahead and let Jennifer introduce herself, what she does, and how long she's been in this hemp field, and maybe you'll understand why we're having this conversation.
So thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Jennifer Rexford, and I am the co-owner of Southwest Wholesale Consultants and Southwest Wellness Consultants. I have been in this industry for over 3 years now, and I started off with Charlotte's Web. I was their senior account manager for Charlotte's Web, and in that wonderful company. And now I have moved on to create my own distribution and brokerage here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So we have a store and an e-com that's launching off next week. And we are licensed and bonded by the CDA. So we also deal with hemp, seeds, and raw materials.
Right on, right on. Yeah, she's definitely been in it for a while, especially having worked with Charlotte's Web for so long. And it was actually very interesting, her surviving a run of these letters. Now there's things that she definitely can't discuss, but there are some things that are public knowledge, and we can actually get into the types of letters that were received this time around from the USDA and what it was talking about. So yeah, what kind of information do you have for us?
So one of the most important things that I would like to talk about today is precedents. And so I have discovered that there is some precedents out there, and speaking with the attorneys that I have, and kind of doing my research in back with it with red yeast rice, I see similar situations. And I was with Charlotte's Web when they received their 2017 letters. And those were primarily surrounded by comments that wonderful customers have left on their page and their website and their Facebook. Those all affected them as well. And those can affect your company as well, even though we love to hear the wonderful things that hemp has done for us and are doing for customers that are out there. When a customer makes, a claim that says, hey, this has fixed my pain or has, rejuvenated my life or got me off prescriptions. Those are all medical claims, and those could be damaging to a company. So those also have to be monitored to make sure that they stay in general communication.
Definitely. So you mentioned precedents as far as red yeast rice. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background on what that is and how it applies to what we're doing here?
Absolutely. So I started off by finding an article by Kleinfeld, Kaplan, and Becker, regarding these FDA letters. And their website does kkblaw.com. They do talk about the lessons learned from red yeast rice and the factors concerning and regarding the FDA's positions on CBD supplements. Now, what it does talk about is back in 2007 and 2008, and even earlier before that, red yeast rice is a wonderful supplement that's found in Southeast Asia, but it's full of a product that is called monocavlin, and it is biologically similar, or exact, to lovastatin. And lovastatins are wonderful for our heart, as everybody knows. But it is approved drug, lovastatin. And so the FDA letters did go out to red yeast rice companies. And it was quite interesting. And I tried to pull up a few here so that way I have them and I could quote them exactly. So right now, I'm pulling up one of the ones sent from August 8, 2007. To Swanson Health Products, and they were major natural product supplement that's found in a lot of dietary supplements. And this was sent back in August 8th of 2007. So it says regarding red yeast rice and your red yeast rice complex on your website, and this was on swansonvitamins.com. And it says that you promote red yeast rice as a dietary supplement. A laboratory analysis conducted by the FDA determined that your red yeast rice contains significant levels of lovastatin because monocaplin is chemically identical to lovastatin. And so it's significant levels of lovastatin. Lovastatin is an active ingredient and a pharmaceutical ingredient in Mevacor and generic counterparts that are FDA-approved drug to treat patients with cholesterol. It's a very large word. And I don't want to mess that one up. But what they essentially did is that you could not advertise that it was full of those healthy lipid levels, healthy lipid balance or bloodstream, all the things that statins do for you. You couldn't advertise that it decreased cholesterol levels. You could not advertise that, or you couldn't have comments on your webpage that, oh, my cholesterol went down thanks to red yeast rice. That wasn't possible. You couldn't market that as such. And so they received several FDA letters. Now I'm going to go ahead and go back to this, and I do apologize when I pull this up on what we could learn about it. Let's see here. Lessons, here they go. And so, the difference on those two, and so when you use this example, of red yeast rice, finding the similar position, the warnings were sent out on the FDA letters that you cannot use that as a dietary supplement because it's contained in a pharmaceutical article. Let me get down to where the resolve was. I do apologize. Let's see. So the FDA then began to take action against manufacturers for natural health products. After that, the comments went through court and through the court system, which took a significant amount of time. And that's one of the biggest things for all of this, is there's going to be a market for CBD and there's going to be a market for whole plant extracts, but the key is how they're going to market it. And so if you go kind of all the way through red yeast rice and it's how do I put this, progression through all of the issues that it faced with the FDA, the end result is that red yeast rice is still existing. It is still in our natural food supplement aisles. It is still in our dietary supplement aisles, but it cannot advertise the health benefits of the medicine. It cannot advertise the medicine. But red yeast rice is still a very popular product, and it's still on drug counters today, through natural food stores, through doctor's offices, through all kinds of different avenues, and especially in the natural health medicine. And so that's kind of where it all came down to, is that, the court cases did allow both people to exist, but it had to remain whole plant.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, so it couldn't be broken down like we do into isolation.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I feel that, I am not a lawyer by any means, and I do want to let people know that, but I feel that marketing is the biggest issue here at hand. It isn't in formulation. Okay, so Epidiolex itself is a straight CBD. It's an isolate, and it's in larger concentrations, much larger than anyone would want to take for whole plant supplements. So
Right.
Those people, I feel, are going to end up existing. I think both, whole plant extracts and Epidiolex are going to exist side by side. I think that it's just going to come down to marketing and being smart with your verbiage, being smart with the wonderful customers that take your products, communicating to your base, communicating to your stores, communicating to everyone that, you have to make sure that your products are lining up with what regulations currently are regarding marketing of dietary supplements. Now, the definition entire for a dietary supplement And let me go ahead and put you that. The Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act of 1994 created a new class of food products, dietary supplements. They have to contain one or more dietary ingredients, which the law defines as a vitamin, a mineral, an herb, or another botanical or amino acid. The dietary supplements for use by the man to supplement the diet and increasing total dietary intake. CBD is a constitute of a botanical. In most cases, the cannabis plant or cannabis sativa L, or however we want to put it, hemp. Um, and so it meets the definition of a dietary supplement, but it's got to be a whole plant. It can't be just that medicine. You know, over 118 pharmaceuticals right now have botanical ingredients, and botanical ingredients are their number one ingredient. You know, I also like to say you could grow a willow tree in your backyard, but once you extract the aspirin, you could probably have a trouble from that. You know, aspirin comes from the bark of a willow tree. And so, you know, it depends on which situation that you're in, but it all comes down to marketing, you know, and I feel that whole plant extracts will continue to survive and thrive. And I truly believe in them. The greener, the better, I like to say, and the plant mattery, the better. And it's all going to just come down to selective marketing and making sure that things are posted the way they should be.
Right. And that's something that we definitely try to cover as much as possible, trying to ensure that we're all within that compliance realm and where we're moving towards. Because, I mean, definitely, like, I'm pretty positive the letter blatantly says that it's not a dietary supplement, but it does seem to
It says
reach that.
CBD is not a dietary supplement.
Yeah,
And
it's
it
not a
says
dietary
CBD,
supplement.
yeah, it says CBD is not a dietary supplement. It doesn't say CBD is not a whole plant extract. Okay,
Right.
so, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with whole plant extracts, you know, and their verbiage is very selective on what they leave out and what they, you know, what they put in, you know, because what they leave out is selective for their court arguments, you know, and so they do that on purpose. I feel like the best way to kind of go about it, though, is staying whole plant, you know, and just staying a whole plant based supplement, you know, and kind of keeping it at that route.
Right. Absolutely. Um, so we did bring up earlier the interactions between Charlotte's Web and the Realm of Caring. Was that probably the mainest reason why they were sent letters before, was just because of the way they held hands, those two companies?
I know Realm of Caring was brought up in their FDA letter, you know, that they had. Realm of Caring is a wonderful organization that supports so many families and children. I just absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
But what I feel that the FDA letters, though, that were sent to Charlotte's Web started with, you know, all the comments that they had on their web page and on their Facebook. And that was kind of what hit them the hardest first.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, no, definitely don't want to put Realm of Caring in any sort of negative light. They're very amazing organization, has done some really great things, and has brought a lot of light to what the potential we can see with hemp products and what it's doing for people and children. So it's very interesting.
And by no means am I a speaker or a representative, an authorized representative for Charlotte's Web or Realm of Caring, and so I want to make that clear, you know, and this was just based on my personal experiences that, you know, that I faced when I was, you know, with the company, and also what I had seen in all my communications, because I've been to MJ BizCon 3 times. I've been to the Hemp Industry Association 4 times. I've sit on in every single panel from Autism One to, you know, to the hemp industry, you know, trade show. Um, I've
Mhm.
kind of been a part of all of those. And so most of these experiences that I've seen is kind of from those. And from my education, I've kind of sat in on every communication that I possibly can. So that way I stay the most informed in this situation.
Absolutely. I think that's a very, very powerful takeaway that everyone should have is that, this is an ever changing thing, and we have to stay up with what's going on and be in and as consistently as we can. So I think it's
Right,
definitely a huge thing. Um,
right,
so yeah, so that's interesting, kind of like that it's the isolations of these molecules, that because that is what the medicine is, that is what they are claiming the medicine is, as far as the USDA and the FDA, where the whole plant itself is what is acceptable as far as the
right,
types of products that we should be looking at.
right. And it's that's the thing, is that there's so many medicines that are extracted from 100, I think it's 115, 118 different botanicals that are used, or 115 or 118 different medicines, excuse me, that use botanicals. You know what? And those botanicals, they're still grown, they're still legal, they're not outlawed, but just the advertising of those specific isolated molecules that are used in approved drugs. So CBD itself is not an approved drug. Epidiolex is. And so,
Right.
just kind of like, and so it's kind of all folded into that medicine. That medicine is the approved drug. CBD is the main ingredient in that medicine. And it's similar to plant-based cannabinoids, and those plant-based cannabinoids can't be advertised as a dietary supplement when it's an approved drug.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. I mean, it sounds very simple. It sounds like something
I
that
mean, it
that we should
sounds
we
simple, but
can all work.
right, and it sounds
Yeah.
simple, but unfortunately, some companies have received bad, suggestions, bad consultation, bad recommendations. And those bad
Right.
recommendations, it costs a lot of money for a company to go for a full rebrand, and some of
Right.
these companies are facing that, and
Absolutely.
I think they're waiting till the legal argument works its way out before doing the rebrand, which to me is scary, because in the meantime you're going to continue to receive warnings, you're going to continue to have those issues and kind of continue to go that route. Um,
Right.
and I'm sorry, I say a lot because I normally don't do videos. I'm better at phone calls. So
I do too. So
I'm like, I'm
it's all
looking
good.
at
No
myself,
worries.
and so it's all going to come down to marketing, and it's going to be hard for companies to do so, and it's going to be hard for them to relabel and make sure that they're within compliance, but I feel that if they stay in that arena, that they'll do well. And it's also
Right.
really hard because you have to answer those questions. I remember so many different times that, because I manage B2B, okay, and even with the products that I receive today at my current business, I receive calls for the companies that stay within a compliance on CBD marketing. Okay, and I'll just leave them out right now. But the companies that stay within compliance, they typically have hemp extract on their labels versus CBD content. And hemp extract, depending on if it's distillate or isolate, could range anywhere from 60% to 80% CBD levels, right? And so you kind of got to do some math on there and figure out what your actual CBD level is. And I spent, 2 years educating people on that, and it worked, and I didn't have to talk about CBD. I talked about whole plant extracts. I called it the juicy juice. And those juicy juice options, they work really well for you.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I think it definitely comes down more to explaining what's happening within what the body's actually doing, and when we feed these molecules that are all very similar, like the the difference between CPG all the way down to CBN is not very much. It's that of a few carbon molecules and a few hydrogen molecules clicking together in certain places. So
Right.
there's not really much there, and the complexity isn't as high as one would think between one or the other.
Right.
So I definitely feel like it better explained as a symphony and as a synergistic effect anyways than as this is what's doing it, and it's just it's more accurate.
Yeah, and
It's a
it
more
is
accurate way of explaining it.
because those terpenes, they have so many different, you know, excellent properties that people feel and they intake, and that, that enhances the value. Then plus you have the additional cannabinoids, CBN, CBG, all those plant-based cannabinoids working together is just wonderful synchronization. And I feel that
Right.
people receive so much better results. That's why the serving size is so different. Okay, take for instance, Epidiolex. I think Epidiolex serving guidelines are roughly 100 milligrams, and I'm sorry, I may be wrong on this, and I need to pull it up. I think it's roughly 100 milligrams per dose, and a little bit
Yes.
higher. Can you imagine if you tried to get 100 milligrams out of a whole plant extract? Or a full spectrum extract. I don't like to use the word full spectrum. I feel like it's misleading. But
Yeah.
I say whole plant all the time. Full spectrum and broad spectrum, that's a whole other thing that we'll talk about on another day. But it's full spectrum. To be 100% full spectrum, you have to have every single cannabinoid and can prove it. Okay,
Hmm.
so that's about 115, I think they're at cannabinoids. And to be a technically full spectrum product, you have to have every cannabinoid that's in that plant and registered and tested and can prove it. And I feel like that's going to
Right.
be the next legal argument that people are facing. Broad spectrum is anywhere more than 3 cannabinoids, but this industry has taken it to where that's THC free. And I get that, but technically everything that's out there, unless it's an isolate, is broad spectrum.
Right.
It's 3 or more cannabinoids is its legal term, 3 or more properties, and kind of go from there. I call things whole plant, broad spectrum, or I'll just call it whole plant or tea-free. Or
Right.
because I like to call the pot kettle, call a spade, I guess you could put it. But
Yeah.
and that's a whole nother argument for another day. I'm sure we'll have lots of people to debate me on that one.
Absolutely.
That's
But
the
I
fun
mean,
part about
it is part of it. It is definitely part of an enjoyable part. But I mean, it can be debated, but it really comes down to semantics, and it comes down to how we can how we present the product in front of people and the marketing we're using behind it, and that communication that we're having with people, whatever form that communication is taking. And I definitely feel the whole plant style, and as far as what it's going to do to help us stay compliant, because when we start to circulate that understanding and about whole plant, and we talk about it in that way, everything that we're discussing for the most part is going to maintain compliance simply by the nature of what we're talking about, by the synergistic effect. And as long as but this is for my understanding, as long as we continue to lean on that this is what the body's doing for itself, and
it.
not necessarily that these are what the products are doing for our body.
Right, and I agree tenfold. And I feel like if more people focus their product development towards a whole plant extract, they'll start seeing the results that they're looking for from their customer base. I feel like
Absolutely.
so many people just kind of focus, and I'm covering up this sample, okay? But I'd like to just go ahead and put my dropper in front of you here. Okay, so a lot of people focus on getting the clearest product possible. To me, that I like to call that oily water. Okay,
Uh-huh.
and so that's the clearest product possible, and they focus on that CBD, and they focus on the CBD so hard, and I feel like it's just become the media word of the day. because it's not CBD on its own that's doing what people are seeing. You know, the
Absolutely.
results that people feel, the way they, and I'm trying to do this with being as medically sensitive as possible, you know, without making any medical claims, but, you know, the results that people rave about, you know,
Right.
they're receiving those from whole plant extracts. And let me go ahead and pull another one here. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's another one, and I'll just cover up the label on here because I don't want to bring up any company here. But as you can see here, you got a darker color. You got more juice in there. You kind of got more, you know, and that's still not even the level that I would like to show you. I have one product here that is very green and actually has plant matter in it. And those are my favorite. Those are absolutely my favorite. A company could bring me their greeny plant matter product, and I'm so excited because I know that it's going to work for my customers.
Right. I get
You know,
that's a very interesting perspective. I mean, especially, you know, because often I don't like to see green, but I can understand how that just means that there's more of the plant present, and
and
it's the
intact.
plant. Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly.
and
And
I tell
it's
people all
that
the time,
action.
yeah, I tell people all the time, a wheatgrass shot does not taste good. Okay, I don't care too much about flavors. This is a medicine. You know, I used to have autistic parents reach out to me all the time and tell me about the wonderful avenues that they adjusted for their child who might have sensitivities, you know, to taste and texture sensitivities, and the wonderful things that they used to do, like put it in Hawaiian bread for mocha, you know, or they would make popsicles for themselves, you know, or different things like that to get their child to intake it. But they didn't want flavors added. They didn't want more plant matter taken out. They didn't want any of those things. They wanted to do that way, but then they made it work for their child. I mean, I saw parents that took capsules, you know, the empty capsules from the natural store, and then would encapsulate the oil themselves. They wanted that really thick planty, well, not really thick, I would say, but just plant matter. You know, that dark green, that green substance, and that really assures you that you have a whole plant in front of you.
How can we, with that, how can we assure that that product is clean? Is there something that we could ask for, a form of documentation to ensure that that material is clean that's in there instead of, you know, containing a number of things that can be in dirty distillate?
Right. I want you to make sure that you have a full. Now, one of the things I want to step back on is when I was working on getting my business management degree, my bachelor's, I was able to incorporate hemp in all my studies. So all my reports were regarding hemp. All my stuff was regarding CBD studies and medical studies and things that were going on. I actually found multiple studies that showed that they had a better result with an alcohol-based or solvent-based extraction, or, you know, a whole plant extraction that left additional plant matter in there. Darker the bottle, the darker the better. They had a better result versus CO2. And I saw that in studies that I was reading on a regular basis. But I recommend that everybody has products that are full QR compliant, and it's not hard to do. I even have it on my individual products. Um, you know, my individual products, you could create a QR code labeler. And what it does is you could be able to upload all the PDFs for your brands and have it and manage your batches accordingly. You know, make sure that they test for alpha toxins A and B, and those are those myotoxins that can be really tough for you. Lead, metals, and pesticides, and then also CBD content. Microbial, salmonella, yeast, those different things like that are incredibly important when it comes to your oil extracts, to make sure that that process was clean and in a GMP facility. You can ask the company that you're purchasing from, may I see your CGMP certification? You can ask from your company, hey, when was the last time that you received an audit? You can ask for your company, do you have kosher certifications? You can ask for a copy. Do you have organic certifications? You have to ask for a copy. Those things should be provided to the public when asked, and you should demand it from your companies that you're requesting your products from.
And can I ask you, do the products you carry all have these certifications and paperwork associated to them?
Correct.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm
So,
kind of sensitive on that. I have babies in my community as young as 5 months old, that rely on these products. Epidiolex is almost $40,000 a year for these people, and I have people in my communities right now, that are. I remember one gentleman who flew all the way from the Ukraine, and he flew all the way, and he walked into our office with just the tears in his eyes, and all he had was a video of his son seizing this little baby boy. You know what? And he's like, I used everything I had. I flew here overnight. Anything that you guys can do to help, and the desperation in this man's voice, that he used every last dime that his family had just to come over to see what we could do to help. And when you see those babies, and when you see those children, and when you see the people that are so greatly affected, I had one customer, um, most recently, in fact. She was a farming woman, okay, and she was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman. And when I got on the phone with her husband was screaming in the background, like, oh, oh, and just nonstop. And she said, my husband was a wonderful farmer here in town, and he got hurt in a silo accident, and it was a head injury. And she goes, and God tells me that we have to be there for, whether he's sick or whether whether you're sick or whether you're well. And she goes, and I'm trying so hard. She goes, but I want to thank you because the product that you brought into my life. And she goes, I want to show you. And then right there, she gave him a dose to stop. And within 5 minutes, the man stopped screaming. And she goes, when I tried this was the first time that he ever stopped screaming. And that to me is why we're all here.
yeah,
We're not here for these fads. We're not here for this next thing. We're here to bring quality of life to those who matter so much to us. And that's all that people are looking for. And it means so much. And so that's why it's very important for all the products that I carry, that they are within compliancy, that I know about their lab, that I know that they're GMP, that I know that they're, conducted in a good manner.
absolutely. And I definitely people think are definitely people recognize that and recognize that level of dedication. So that was
And
powerful. That is definitely
it's
the reason why we all do this.
and it's hard, and I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. You know what? If you didn't do your background beforehand and you brought on all kinds of products, and now you have these products and you're in a tough bind, or you didn't, there could be an issue where you didn't grow properly, or you didn't grow on the right soil, or there could be an issue from one step to another, or you created this lab, but you just kind of created it in this back room, and you wanted to do so well for people. And I understand that. I so understand that. But you have to make sure that you are within compliance and that you're taking care of these people, because this is something that people are ingesting. And
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things that I could recommend.
And they're often having, regardless of, the situation that we want to imagine, they are often their immune system is often compromised. People that are using these products, they've come to the point, even with hemp and CBD, it's come to the point to where this is one of the only recourses that they could try. So it's like we have to be cognizant of that. I feel like in this process, and so being as clean and as consistent as we possibly can be. And I like that you had mentioned before, and it not being a fad. I hope that I can bring as many people into the conversation that feel the same way, because it's not, it's absolutely not, because what
It's
we're
a
doing here is,
lifesaver.
is very
It's a life
powerful.
changer. However you want to put it, it's a life changer. I wouldn't say
Absolutely.
necessarily saver, because this isn't curing anybody. You know what I mean? And there's no curing. And I use that gently. You know what I mean? And what I say is that it's just bringing back a quality of life. You know what?
Absolutely.
For so many people that needed that relief.
Absolutely. That alone is enough for some people to begin the healing process. So
Exactly.
that's it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was beautiful. I definitely feel like we've reached enough. We've probably in a good amount of time, and I don't
Perfect.
want to necessarily go too long, so we can get it uploaded. If
Absolutely.
anything, I'll go ahead and upload it to
Here, I'll
YouTube, and
stop
then I'll